Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for another game theory video. If you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share, support if you want to appreciate things. Give me a Christmas present if you like the channel. Support it. Maybe we'll get a webcam shilling it. Anyway, I want to talk more about this like footsie kind of shit, right? And I want to talk about why footsies are gay. That's my clickbait. So remember, this isn't even something that, I know I made this more in-depth footsies kind of like stuff, I think before I left for Japan. Maybe it was the end of summer, whatever. And, I talked about a lot of stuff that I've never seen talked about before. But again, just the general idea of what footsies is now is not what it was before, right? So again, let's watch this. Let's just watch this, okay? This is an old video. This is like old VHS tapes, right? And this is what I was talking about.
Against Dalsim, get as close as possible and throw low short kicks. Here's what happens when Dalsim tries to attack. Dalsim's only alternative is to drill, but if he tries that, counter with a hurricane kick.
And so, like I said, this is like old, obvious knowledge. That is what when people talked about footsies back in the day, footsies was not this whole encompassing term of neutral with punishing and everything like that. We talked about footsies because if you actually played back in the day, you checked with shorts like that and it looked like you were playing footsies. And what I mean by that when I say why footsies is gay and how like words, they mean different things basically now, right? So let's imagine we have footsies. Well, here, if we think about a foot, right, then maybe whenever footsies was originally termed or something like that, you know what I mean? We got this dude right here and we got this naughty little girl right here and she's playing footsies under the table and oh my goodness, your cock could be that big. And, stranger things have happened, right? Footsies are like, oh, you're just like, under the table, right? And so footsies then, that sort of lingo was applied, you know what I mean? Like under the table, they applied the term footsies to, who knows? I don't know who originally came up with the lingo, but when I was a kid in the arcade, we knew that was footsies because it looked like you're just mashing on duck short because that's how you checked back in the day, especially in Street Fighter 2. Like I said, when Ryu couldn't even fireball pokes because his fireball didn't have, and of course, as I said before, we didn't talk about things like hurt boxes and hit boxes, but, we just thought, oh, well, you can't fireball pokes. You know what I mean? You couldn't do that because, it turned out hurt boxes and hit boxes, just so aligned like that. But you had to check with shorts like that. It was like your little force field, right? And then if you think about Street Fighter in an even deeper way, you talk about proximity guard and how that worked, freezing the opponent, all that kind of stuff, right? But mashing on duck short, that was footsies, right? Nowadays, when people say footsies, right, they're talking about like, oh, checking the opponent. Oh, whiff punishing the opponent. Oh, neutral, blah, blah, blah. And it's just this big clusterfuck, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, whoa, that doesn't, you're talking about footsies. That's not what we were talking about back in the day, right? So let's take another thing. Let's talk about gay. Let's talk about being gay. Okay, so back in the day, before I was born, I don't know exactly when, but I'm sure people probably know that the word gay meant you were happy, right? It's like, oh, gay, jovial, or something like that, right? Now, as time went on, gay meant homosexual, right? But I'm sure if you were to travel back in time, back to the future, to the 40s or 50s, whenever people said gay like that, if someone said, you're gay, they might be like, yeah, bro, I was gay with my wife last night. Man, she sucked my dick. I was gay as hell, right? What I mean? The term doesn't mean the same thing. So when I see people, trying to imply or apply this sort of like verbiage or usage of words to old games, like you see people like, oh, people think that footsies was so amazing back in Street Fighter 2, but look at all these things. Yeah, there's no footsies here, blah, 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 with Vega, blah, blah, blah. Where's the whiff punishing here? Oh, you think it's so good? That's not what footsies was. You're applying what footsies is, quotation marks, nowadays, to what it was in the early 90s, whatever, That's not what footsies was. You're using a word that was not used the way it was back then to try to make some sort of straw man, ridiculous argument when if actually, and I've showed the examples with Vega before, you could actually say for a character like Vega, Perhaps Vega's footsies are quotation marks weak in certain aspects. Yes, he has fast walk speed. You know what I mean? Yes, he has a slide, blah, 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 blah. But if you're even talking about before Super Street Fighter 2, before Super Turbo, before Vega got his stand medium kick, you know what I mean? You can check Vega during footsies pretty easily with Ryu. Easily, quotation marks, right? But in those footsie battles, Ryu's footsies are beating Vega. So Vega, yes, Vega need to give Vega a different sort of attribute, a different strength to compensate for his weakness. Vega is a faster character. He has a faster jump. He can fuck neutral, you know what I mean? And start wall diving and all this kind of stuff. Like, we didn't say, oh, he's fucking footsies or something like that. You know, it's just not the way you talk. You're using the word in a different way, right? So again, footsies, you know, depending on where you're using it, depending on the game you're playing, if you're fucking around with this girl, maybe footsies means that she's has her foot on your cock. You know? Bobby, you're trying to pee-pee again. You know what I mean? Now, if you use footsies in Street Fighter 2 footsies, if you're actually going to use the verbiage, that's what footsies is not the same as what you call footsies now. And I've said before, it's almost it's like a fake OG kind of thing, or a fake way to try to seem smart to people that aren't in the know. I should make sure that my microphone is actually working, right? It's almost like, you know, you take this like person who wants to pretend like, oh yeah, I'm an OG. And let's take the idea that, you know, let's say you respect Street Fighter 2 and you think of Street Fighter 2 is the ultimate footsies game for sake of argument, right? So you have this sort of, let's say, fraud person who'll be like, yeah, man, back in my day, footsies, I could do everything footsie wise. You know what I mean? And you're saying that to this new school player when they hear that, like, oh, fuck, so you mean you were whiff punishing this? You were doing this and that? You were doing this and that? He's like, yeah, I did all of that in Street Fighter 2. And it's like, no, you fucking didn't. You're talking out of your ass, and you're telling this person who then is, you know, naive, right? You're being like, oh yeah, it's just, do you get what I'm saying? It's like just a way to try to sound smart. Oh yeah, this is footsies. You're not even using footsies in the proper term. You're trying to sound like you're an OG. You know what I mean? It's just fucking ridiculous. And like I've said before, most people are not fucking good at video games. Most people can't talk about video games. These content creators that you watch, what do they fucking do? They're just background noise. And you know, I've said before, even someone like me, say, and I've used the example as like fragrances or something, I still have an interest in fragrances, right? But sometimes when I listen to people, I'm like, oh, this sounds retarded, right? But you know, it's just like background noise because I have a interest in the hobby, right? You know what I mean? So I'm like, I guess, you know. And that's what a lot of you guys are doing, and you probably don't. Maybe you don't realize it. Maybe you're just listening to your quotation marks favorite content creator, or maybe you're listening to anybody, and they're like, oh, they're talking about Street Fighter, and I like Street Fighter, or I like fighting games. But you got to realize most of these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They've never actually been good at the game. And in reality, they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. You know, it's very rare to meet someone who can do both. You know? So, anyway, I got another idea for a video, but remember, if you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share, support channel if you want. Appreciate it. Thanks. Christmas present? No one wants to give me a Christmas present? Webcam, help me buy one? Fuck you. Fuck you, man. You get a lump of coal.